Gust Blaster? I barely know her. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, True Champion Steven, back here again with another Vanguard video for y'all. This time, we're doing Shadow Paladins. That is to say, Shadow Paladins updated with the new cards from the Violent City Leader set. Should be fun. Let's get into it. Alright, everyone, here we are in Cardfight area. This is the program that I use to test and play Vanguard for all you guys, in case you were wondering. If you guys want to see more stuff like this, or me playing Vanguard IRL, feel free to go ahead and follow me on Twitch down in the description below, and you can watch me play some Vanguard there. Also, if you need any help with any competitive TCGs that you are interested in or want to get better at, please feel free to send me an email down in the email below. I am offering coaching services now for anyone that's interested in getting better with their competitive TCG game. All TCGs are welcome, but if you really want help with Cardfight Vanguard and Pokemon, I'm kind of really good at those ones, for sure. But if you want me to learn like a new game like Transformers or Hearthstone or anything like that, I will gladly analyze the meta and try and do my best to offer you as much help as I can, because I do think a lot of stuff with getting better at card games can be transferred to other card games. Like I have really good advantage in tempo-based mindset when it comes to playing games, thanks to Cardfight Vanguard. I always win Settlers of Catan. You know, you can just like transfer a lot of these skills into other games as well. So feel free to ask me for any help, and I'll be sure to offer as much as I can to you. Alright guys, with that being said, let's go ahead and hop right into the actual deck profile itself. Now, some of you might know, I have done a Shadow Paladin deck profile before. If you guys want to check out that video, I'm going to go ahead and have a link on the iCards up here, and as well as in the description below. If you want to check out that video, a lot of these cards do come from that same deck because, well, it's standard format. We don't have that many cards, but and the way that you play the deck is still relatively the same, so I'm not going to overly explain too many of the old cards. I will obviously touch on them and how they affect the new cards, but really we're here to look at these new cards like Gust Blaster, Dark Bond Trumpeter, and Swordbreaker. Those are the main three cards that this deck got out of the Violence Leader set, and I cannot wait to show these cards off and what they had to the deck. But first things first, we gotta start with our Grade 0 starter, and that's Full Bow. Full Bow is the only starter that, well, this deck has it's not a trigger, and you can ride it and get a free +1. Awesome, play it because you have to. Alright, next up we're playing a 7 crit, 5 draw, 4 heal trigger lineup. Personally, my favorite trigger lineup in the history of Cardfight Vanguard, as it's perfectly aggressive and perfectly advantageous in my opinion, which I feel like you need to have in a game of Cardfight Vanguard, especially with a deck like this that wants to be both aggressive and advantageous at all points in the game. So really quickly, if you want to change this to 8-4 or 6-6, by all means go ahead. To each their own when it comes to their triggers. You know what works for you, but this, in my opinion, is the most optimal, as you do get that little bit of an extra 5k unit in your deck that is also a 5k shield, so you can call it from your deck and not really lose out on that much defensive power. We'll get to why that is later on in the game, but just know that this How Owl actually can be used very well in this deck. Alright, moving on to grade 1s, we're going to go lightning fast right now. We got our best card in the deck, Skull Witch in the main, definitely the MVP. This is your main source of advantage in the deck. She has ability cost, rest this unit, search your deck for any card with 5k power, and then call it on your rearguard circle as stand. Let's say this ability can be used up to 1 time each turn, even with the card with the same card name. It's really complicated, but basically that just means you can only do it 1 time, and no matter what. Even if you have 2 domains on the board, you can still only do it 1 time. That's what this means, because they got rid of that rule a long time ago for once per turn effects, but they're basically saying only this card's like that. So just know, only 1 time. Next up, we got Black Sage Caron. Karen is your advantage, not advantage, your resource engine in the deck, because the deck counterblasts a lot and you need a way to countercharge it, otherwise you're not going to be able to do much. So we have win place due to ability of a card either from hand or from deck, Soul Blast 1, countercharge 1, and this unit gets power plus 3k. Simple as that. You don't really have that much soul need in the deck. I think only 1 or 2 cards Soul Blasts. I'm pretty sure only 1 card Soul Blast, yeah, so Caron's really good. It lets you countercharge, make sure that your counterblasts keep flowing. You need counterblast for Phantom Blaster, you need counterblast for Blaster Dark, you need counterblast for Blackwing Swordbreaker, for Maka, for Gust Blaster, I'm pretty sure, yep. You just need it all for everything. So that's why Black Sage Caron is in the deck, so you can maintain your resources really simple. Next up, new card. Alright, let's talk about this. Blackwing Swordbreaker. Awesome card, an homage to the original Blackwing Swordbreaker, which was 6k, and when placed from ability, or when placed from deck actually is what it said, Soul Blast 1, draw a card, very, very similar effect. This card's effect is when placed, doesn't matter from where, doesn't matter how, counterblast 1, draw a card, and if this card was placed from hand, this unit gets power plus 5k on turn. This card is literally advantage the card. So you're probably asking yourself, Steven, why don't we play 4? We already play 4 5ks, we don't want to have to play another one. We don't want to play 8 5k grade 1s, because that means Excel/other force decks can really rush us early, and there's really nothing we can do about it. So we're a little bit afraid of that. Also, this deck requires a lot of counterblast, and if I'm just spamming Blackwing Swordbreakers every single turn of the game, I'm not really going to be doing much in the long run. But what makes Blackwing Swordbreaker and Nemen really awesome is that this deck needs to constantly call units, have cards in hand, so that way we can sacrifice those units and achieve our effects. I truly believe that Shadow Paladins in this standard format is the kind of best control deck that we have, because it can just get so much advantage, has so many ways to draw cards and use its effects, that its effects just disrupt the opponent. It retires units. This is the best retire deck in the game, and it's really funny because you have decks like Narukami or Kagura that's like, oh, that's their thing. This deck does it better because it actually draws cards and then does it. So it's super, super cool. Also, it creates a lot of pressure through these skills. We'll get into more of that a little bit later, but just know that the cards like Nemen, Swordbreaker, and even Javelin here are our sources of advantage. They let us draw cards and keep the effects going because we need to constantly sacrifice our units to do it. And this card's also really cool because it can hit really cool numbers. Like it's a 10k booster, so when you boost your Gust Blaster, he hits like 33 or 43, I think, is like the biggest number you can get him at with only one force marker. With Phantom Blaster Dragon here, he hits like 38 on the reg thanks to this card. And what's really cool about this card is that it is not dependent on another ability. You can just play one from hand and draw a card, like I said. But what's really cool about this is that you can use Nemain and call it out of the deck and then use the effect. A really cool combo that I think I show you guys in the gameplay is that what I like to do when I go first is I like to call one Nemain behind my Vanguard circle, rest it, call another one. On my next turn, I'm going second. I ride my grade 2, say it's Blaster Dark. And now I use my Nemain behind my Vanguard, and I call another unit, and now I have a 10k column on the right, and my Vanguard column, all for free. Now, I didn't use a single card from my hand to do that, except for the one Nemain that I called the turn before. And then Blaster Dark, for example, can sometimes have Twin Drive, which means I get double drive triggers in that turn, which means I might have a 30k column or a 20k column swinging at my opponent's Vanguard on turn 2 of the game. So you can actually just create a lot of pressure, too, through this advantage. That's just like one example of one of the cool combos that this deck can do really early in the game. So, I really like this card. Adds a lot of advantage. Really awesome. Next up is Blaster Javelin. Still a really good card. Win place if you have 2 more grade 1 or less cards. It does count himself. Cost counterblast 1, draw a card, and this unit gets power plus 3k until end of turn. Really simple effect. Same kind of a dealio as Swordbreaker, except Swordbreaker can be by herself. So really cool thing is if you have 2 counterblasts, call a Swordbreaker, draw 1. Call a Javelin, counterblast 1, draw another one, boom, that's 2 free cards for just playing 2 cards in your hand. It's like you didn't even do anything, so it's super awesome. And then you counterblast 1 again, and use Gust Blaster's effect. It's crazy. So, really like this card. If you want to change this out and like run one more Swordbreaker and like 1 or 2 of like that 5k Dragon, you can, and just have like ultimate 5k toolbox. Feel free. But I really like this card. I think it adds a lot to the deck. Plus, being an 11k booster on the turn each call can sometimes be really cool for math because you have cards like Cathbad or even Darkbond Trumpeter here that gains a lot of power to your units, which is really cool. Really like this card. Moving on to grade 2s, you got the main boss avatar of the deck. We got Blaster Dark, one of my favorite units of all time. He's really up there with Draconic Overlord. It goes Draconic Overlord, him, and then probably Nahalem. Anywho, Blaster Dark, win place, counterblast 1. Your opponent chooses one of his rear guards and retires it. This is Vanguard and rear guard, by the way, guys. Really awesome. And then act. Once per turn, if your opponent has no rear guards, discard 1 card from your hand. This unit gets drive plus 1. He's a twin driver on your first turn of the game. If your opponent didn't call anything, either way you're winning because your opponent either has to expunge a card when they didn't want to, and kind of lose cards in their hand to guard with, or even attack later, or you get a free twin drive. So it's really awesome. And I say free because you discard 1 card, and so it's a net 0. It's not really a +1 unless you get a draw trigger, or it's a +1 in the sense of advantage because you're pressuring your opponent more by getting more triggers and thus dealing more damage, possibly, or making them guard more. All this is advantage. Think of this deck as the advantage king. I'm either pressuring you, calling dudes, or retiring your dudes. It's really great. Alright, next up is Darkness Maiden Maka, another really good utility slash advantage engine card. Auto Vanguard, Rearguard, win cost, it's an act. Anytime. Counter +1, call a grade 1 or less card from your hand to Rearguard Circle, draw a card, and this unit gets power plus 5k. Super simple. You can chain this into calling, you can use this call in the main, use this call, sorry, you can use this to call Corone. Basically, you called Corone for, basically you drew a card, had gained 8k to a column, and that's it. And that's it. Like, it's really cool. You can just like do really cheeky things. Next up, we have two really kind of beat sticks in the deck. We got first up, we got Tragic Knight Cathbad, really awesome. Like I said before, you're retiring your dudes, but you're also retiring your opponent's dudes. And Cathbad, if you're just like retiring and constantly calling cards, this card can let you get a lot more pressure on your opponent, because his ability is basically he gains 3k power for every rearguard that you have and your opponent doesn't have. So for example, if my opponent had 0 rearguards and I had 5, he would gain 15,000 power. That's a lot. So he'd be a 25k beat stick all by himself. Throw on a force marker, throw on an AK booster, boom, that's like 53,000 column right there for just one force marker. That's crazy. So he's a really big beater late game. Plus, he also lets you have a really nice board presence after you've killed your dudes, because you don't really have that big of a field. Sometimes you only have 1 or 2 columns after you've done all your retire effects. You don't really want to expunge more. He lets you still have a big power boost without needing to actually expunge as much as you want. A really good magic number with him is 27. Basically, if you have him and then 2 other dudes, he gains 9k. With an AK booster, that's 27. Swinging at a Protector Excel Vanguard, boom, magic number. Perfect. Next up is Darkpawn Trumpeter, one of my also favorite cards from the new set. I believe she's a triple rare. She is, yes. When placed, counter +1, search your deck up to 1 card with 5,000 less power, call it to Rearguard Circle as rest, and shuffle your deck. Notice it's not as broken as it could have been. You could have like called in the main, but basically this is your this has the calls Swordbreaker. This is your Swordbreaker caller right here mainly, because it lets you just proc Swordbreaker for free if you got 2 counterblasts. Also, getting a free dude on a grade 2 is just awesome. But the other part of the effect is awesome. When your power 5k rearguard is placed, this unit gets power plus 3k. It's really weird. Basically, it says whenever you play a 5k from your deck, she gains 3k. So she becomes 12k, plus 5 is 17, plus another 5 if it's Swordbreaker is 27. Boom. Magic number. You want to beat Excel decks. This deck is the Excel killer. Like, it destroys Excel decks, especially Murakumo. So the way that I built this deck is to deal with Murakumo / Protect decks. Because those are the 2 biggest matchups that you want to win. I argue that every Force matchup is pretty 50-50 no matter what. So you can't really improve that much. But Excel and Protect, you want to improve as much as possible. The 2 biggest ones being Ancient Feather, Oracle Think Tank, and Murakumo / Great Nature. This deck already beats Great Nature, and it already beats Oracle Think Tank in my opinion, but Murakumo is a little tricky. You want to constantly just stay on PBD and retire their dudes and swing at them with crits until you want to go for a big Gust Blast at the end of the game to win the game. Easy as that. And you want to kind of watch out for Shirayuki, but your Force, so Shirayuki kind of just like doesn't do that much to you if you spread out your Force markers smartly, I don't know, I can't talk, it's fine. But anywho, this card really helps, because again, that 27k number is a number that we want to hit a lot with our rear guards. Our Vanguard hits magic numbers on Force all day, so it doesn't matter. So Darkpawn Trumpeter, really good for that. Next up, moving on to the big boss unit. Still the main great thing of the deck is Phantom Blaster Dragon, PBD, as everyone calls him. He has 2 Vanguard skills, cost combat 1, retire 3 of your rear guards. That's why you want to always call your dudes. Here's why. You retire 3 dudes for just 1 effect, 1 time, but you can also do it multiple times, fun fact. So if you want to just like gain 2 crits, gain 30k power, and swing at your opponent for a game, you can do that. It's all in the main phase though, so keep that in mind. It's not a battle phase retire like if it was, that'd be broken. Okay, your opponent chooses 3 of his rear guards, retires them, so basically you both just lose 3 rear guards, and this unit also gets plus 15k power and plus 1 crit, like I already said. Really good. Riding him first is super awesome. You just go, hey, you're bored, it's gone. Here's a 15k and a crit. Here's 38k and a crit in your face. What are you gonna do about it? Like, against Excel decks, they kind of just like can't handle that if you go first, because like you retire their board, they don't really have that much cards in their hand, and they just take a crit to the face. It's awesome. Next up is a second effect, which is also like, I don't really use it that much, but it is there. If your opponent has no rear guards and 4 or less cards in his or her damage zone, Soul Blast 1 grade 3, and you deal a damage to your opponent. I don't really use that effect that much, because realistically, I'm never going to use his first effect twice in a turn, because that actually loses more units for me than it does for my opponent, unless they're Excel. I would use this effect twice against Excel decks because if they have 6 units in play, I'll retire 6 units. That's pretty free. That's awesome. But if they have less than 6, I'm going to lose more units than they do. So I'm never going to do that. But if you did, then you could. Also, against like Oracle Think Tank and other decks that you don't use the effect twice on, their board won't really be empty. So it kind of doesn't matter too much. And also, if they're at 4 or less damage, I am more than happy just to crit them in the face. But this effect is really nice for if they're at 3, you can force them to 4 and then swing out a crit with them and then get a crit on the drive trigger and then force them to guard a lot of attacks. And it kind of means that on the crackback they won't be able to call that many rear guards because they lost so many and they lost so many cards from hand trying to stop you from winning the game. So really good card, really good effect. He's our boss. Boom. Before we get to the Gust Blaster, we have one Dark Mage Vibe car. He's basically our grade 3 caller dude. So we have 7 grade 1s, really 10 grade 1s that add advantage. We have 3 grade 2s, and we have, well, technically we have 5 grade 2s, and then we have 1 grade 3 that is advantage. He also has Force, which is awesome. And Act Vanguard Rearguard once per turn. Soul Blast 1, look at the top card of your deck and call it to Rearguard Circle or put it in the drop zone. You always call. There's no reason never to call, by the way, guys. You always call the unit. Even if it's a trigger, call it because it doesn't matter. Because you're losing it anyway. It should have said put it on the bottom of the deck. If it said that would have been much better. But I don't know why it says put it in the drop zone. No one should ever do that. If you call all that unit gets power plus 5k to end of turn, and then at the end of the turn, retire that unit. So it's really cool that you can just call the unit and sack it off using either Phantom Blaster or Gust Blaster's effect. And it's basically a free fodder. It's awesome. If it's like a great grade 1 like Karen, he basically gained 8k, and you counter charge 1. It's awesome. If it's a Nemen, you can rest her, call a Swordbreaker. If it's a Swordbreaker, you can have +1, have it gain another 5k. You can just do so much with Vibe Car out of chance. It's kind of awesome. You could call Blaster Blade and then retire something for free. Sorry, Blaster Blade. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Blasphemy. Blasphemy. Oh my gosh, a pun. Okay, sorry. Blaster Dark. You can call Blaster Dark, retire a unit. Oh, that was funny. Okay, so Vibe Car, really like him. Good for advantage. And finally, the Big Mac Daddy of Shadow Paladins, in my opinion, Gust Blaster Dragon. I love this card. Even though he doesn't have guard restrict, I still love this card. Auto Vanguard when it attacks. Already love it. Love it so much. Counterblast 1 and retire 2 rear guards. Draw a card. Your opponent chooses one of his or her rear guards and retires it. And this unit gets power plus 10k until end of turn. Already awesome. I love everything about this card. You basically retire 2 dudes, draw a card. Your opponent loses a dude, and you gain 10k. This card is literally advantage the card because this card is what this deck needed, in my opinion. Because before in set 4, set 2, we had the worst Oracle Think Tank or Protect in general matchup ever. Like, they would just PG our Phantom Blaster Dragon with their Protect markers and laugh in our face because we would just run out of resources because we had to keep retiring our dudes to keep even doing any pressure to them at all in the late game. But with this guy, what we can do is we can sit on Phantom Blaster for like 1 or 2 turns and then just ride Gust Blaster and then just constantly stream advantage and keep up in the Protect game until we get enough force / enough attacks with over 28k power into where their hand is literally just like 4 Protect markers and they can't stop our last attack and we win the game. So I love this card despite the fact that he doesn't have guard restrict. Obviously if he had guard restrict he'd be an even harder counter to protect, but in my opinion he does just fine because he allows us to play the resource game with protect a lot better than we would before. Because this deck gains a lot of advantage like I said, but it's a lot of burst advantage. It's all like on this turn I'm going to draw this many cards and then attack you, or on this turn I'm going to call this many dudes and then retire them and then attack you. But this says on turn-by-turn basis, I'm going to constantly +1 and -1, no matter what, while attacking. It's while attacking. That's why it's so good. This lets you get full value out of Vibe Car too, because before you couldn't really get full value out of Vibe Car because you would either instantly retire him and the dude he called, because this is a main phase retire. But this is a battle phase retire. It's so freaking good. I love it. And then finally, his other Vanguard ability is when your rear guard is retired, if a grade 3 with Blaster in its card name is in your soul, this unit gets power plus critical. This unit gets critical +1. So he gains 2 critical, believe it or not, when you retire the 2 dudes. So that's super awesome too. So he also just like hits with crits a lot. So he forces out PGs all the time. And if you're playing a resource game with your opponent, and that's 2 cards in their hand every turn guaranteed because they don't want to take 3 damage to the face. And you have rear guards that probably hit 20k or 30k power thanks to force markers. You're going to win the game in 4 to 5 turns. This lets you get to that 4 to 5 turn mark by drawing more cards and getting rid of more advantage from your opponent. So, in summary, this deck is super awesome. I love the new kind of controlling aspect that it can have thanks to cards like Gust Blaster, thanks to cards like Darkbond Trumpeter. I really like the way, I really like its placement in the meta right now because it does just destroy Murakumo's face in, and that seems to be one of the best decks moving forward. So if you're going to a team league, make sure that you have a Shadow Paladin player on your team no matter what. Personally, I might be that guy for our team. I really want to play Angel Feather personally because I think Angel Feather is actually the best deck in the format right now. But you know what? I've been wrong with that before, so it's whatever. But I really recommend this deck to anyone that's thinking about getting it. I know it's really expensive. Like, these cards are like 30 bucks or something. So if you, I understand if you don't want to play this deck because it's so expensive, but I really do like it. And if you want to just mess around with your friends, proxy it up, have fun, go right ahead. But yeah, that's it for the deck profile, you guys. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video right now. Alright everyone, that'll wrap up my new Shadow Paladin deck profile for y'all. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, let me know by leaving a like on this video and subscribing if you're new, so that way you know when my videos go live for you. Later on this week, we'll be posting the new gameplay video for this deck. I hope you guys enjoy that as well. I'll probably put a post on Instagram or Facebook about it, or Twitter even, about it, so feel free to follow me either from here or from down in the description below. Feel free to check that out. Also, join our Discord server. Maybe you guys can let me know some of your personal thoughts about it directly from the Discord server. Or you guys can ask me questions like what decks I should deck profile next, or maybe if you want me to give you any advice on how to get better at the card game or any other card game, or if you just want to talk, feel free to join the Discord server down below. As always, you guys, I've been True Champion Steven. Thank you so much for stopping by, and always remember to work hard, rest easy, and live well, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.